In this video, we're going to be taking a look here at your current radar imagery. As you can see, there's a whole lot going on. We will dive into that in just a moment, but we also need to take a look at the modeled guidance because we have more major storms on the way, just like this one, as we reach into a very active February pattern, I would call it. Very warm. It's a dome-like bubble that's over the eastern United States, causing spring-like weather. And really the question remains, is this just going to continue through into March and April, and are we just going to see a pure early spring, or is this eventually going to lead and really give into a winter-like pattern at some point? We'll try to answer some of those questions, at least for the near future here in this video. Let's just get into things though, and as we can see, there is plenty of snowfall taking place here across portions of the plains into the upper Midwest here, and even into the Great Lakes. And this is heavy in certain spots, especially here. As you look over Iowa, we have some heavier pockets of this snowfall taking place, and we see some mixing going on around Chicago and other regions of northern Illinois here. We do have a pretty typical low cold front, warm front structure here, so the warm front is somewhere over here. So what we're seeing is this warm air surging in from the south here, and then we see the cold air swinging in behind this cold front, and this is what's leading towards severe weather along this front. We can see supercells, embedded supercells along that cold front, and that is really the main thing we're going to be talking about today. As we just zoom into the west here, in the northwest more specifically, we can see that there is some storminess taking place along the coast here of Oregon and Washington. Mostly lighter activity, but it is in the form of rainfall and snowfall depending on your location. So that is going to be some mixed precipitation happening here for the west this kind of afternoon into maybe this evening. Let's take a look at the snowfall happening here over the upper Midwest and the plains. This is not light by any means. We can see very heavy snowfall, in fact, taking place for a lot of areas from Kansas, Nebraska, up through Missouri, Iowa, into Wisconsin, northern Illinois there, into the lower peninsula of Michigan as well. So cities like Madison, Milwaukee, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines there. We can see also into Omaha, Nebraska there. We're seeing some of this. We can see Grand Rapids there in Michigan seeing a lot of this, and even as far north as Green Bay there in Wisconsin seeing the heavier snowfall here. This is definitely a very interesting event here. As we work our way further kind of just east here, and we'll get into the severe weather in just a moment, we can tell this warm front area is mostly just going to be light to moderate precipitation. No thunderstorms with this likely, and this is a very typical warm front. This is why I always tell you guys, typically, warm fronts are going to lead towards more showery weather, more dreary, cloudy, showery activity. That is what you're going to see in this pocket here throughout Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia here, Delaware, and New Jersey. Mostly just dreary. Now, that's not to say that all of Kentucky is going to be seeing that weather, because we do have this cold front stretching far northward. And definitely these areas in here need to be watching for severe weather. So for western Kentucky, southern Kentucky, and it will be spreading further north there throughout the state of Kentucky, we definitely need to be watching for this severe weather. We even have flood warnings coming in for a lot of these areas throughout Tennessee and Kentucky there. And I'm especially watching this line right here. This pocket right here looks to be embedded with some supercells, especially along Mississippi and western Tennessee there. Later on today, those are going to really fire up and potentially bring some tornadic activity, other forms of severe weather with them as well. We definitely need to watch these pockets in here. We can tell these individual cells are looking pretty potent here along this pocket right here. So definitely watching this as this moves into further into Tennessee, portions of Alabama. This all needs to be watched very closely. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is move on. We're not going to zoom out that far. We're going to move on, and we're going to take a look at the upcoming weather for the United States, where, again, we have more major storms just like this on the way as we reach into an extremely active February pattern. It's been that way for most of the winter. Very unusual, more spring-like than anything. We're going to talk about all of that here in just a second. Now, here we are taking a look as we focus more in on the upcoming pattern. This is later on this evening. What we will end up seeing is this cold front area will be more like this, where we're watching for severe weather. So throughout Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and up through into portions of Kentucky, even eastern Kentucky here. as our low is located right here. And we still have this warm front activity out ahead to the east here, as you can see. And also, not to note, but we also have snowfall still happening up here for Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Wisconsin, and into Michigan to the north of that low. So that is still ongoing at this point. As we continue things on, we see by the time we're reaching Friday afternoon, a lot of the showery and thunderstorm activity will be basically over the southeast, as this low is located over Massachusetts. Some mixed precipitation here for areas just north of the low cannot be ruled out. We follow this up with a very cold pattern actually for a little bit. So we'll take a look at this. We can see that there's a jet stream kind of descending as we head towards the east, and cold air will be able to pour in right behind that cold front, bringing dry, cold air with it. Now this kind of lifts off immediately. We do see another cool down by the time we're reaching about Tuesday the 21st here. So we can see that taking place here. As we just continue this on, we see that there is a bit of a minor clipper system here located kind of offshore. It's kind of a minor Millibee nor'easter type look, and we see snowfall happening for New England. Also, a very wide plethora of heavy snowfall happening here throughout the west with some very broad low pressure. Just to show you guys how many areas of low pressure there is out west, there's just all that, and we're seeing a lot of snowfall due to that broad low pressure. So we can expect a lot of snowfall accumulation out there. We see this storm system rise up through the middle portion of the country here. So cold front underneath, warm front here. Definitely looking like a very interesting kind of closing point to that week. We have snowfall to the north again, very heavy snowfall. And then this actually reaches into a lot of the northeast where we get some wintry precipitation here for New England again, as that low is located pretty far offshore of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard there. Now we get more of these kind of major storm systems that kind of stretch across many different states. This one is pretty weak though, and it's bringing mostly showery activity with it. Snowfall showers to the north, potentially thunderstorms and showers here near the low. So definitely a pretty interesting pattern. I think the most interesting thing, in fact, is this rising warm air we see again in the east, causing this bubble of warm air, and then cold air able to kind of just spread throughout the northern regions north of that jet stream. Now the total precipitation tells the full story. Again, we have a lot of activity now heading into the west here, some of this even rising up through the southwest, and what this causes is just a lot of precipitation out here in general. And we also see that there will be a lot of storms rising up through the kind of eastern regions, kind of the more inland eastern regions of the United States, up through into the northeast. And this again is going to cause a very active 10-day period for these areas as well. So definitely that tells the full story. But the snowfall here tells you where the jet stream is. Can you guess? It looks something like that. The entire model run for the most part. So this actually, it's interesting that you can tell where that jet stream is based on where the snowfall happens. We can tell that the cold air is a little bit more suppressed to way further north here than in the west, where we see the cold is widespread throughout pretty much all the states out west. And then these areas are forced to basically be above freezing for most of the model run, and that is how most of the winter has gone, in fact, as well. We can tell there's a very large amount of snowfall expected actually here for these northern regions, and these areas have also kind of had less snowfall than normal, but they look to kind of make up for it a tiny bit here as we reach into late February. Now, anywhere in the grays is a dusting, if anything. Blues 2 to 6 inches of snowfall, purples 6 to 10, pinks 10 to 20 there. Your pastel blues will be 20 to 35, and then your pastel pinks will be 35 inches plus for a lot of these regions out west. Now, as we take a look at our GFS model here, we can tell that pretty much most things are the same here. I want to get us beyond 240 hours to see what this model eventually shows. Looks like more of the same here. We do get a couple of these snowstorms moving across the north. That brings some snowfall here to the northeast. Pretty mixed precipitation, but it does take place. But in general, you can tell that the theme through early March still looks like this. Warm in the east, cold in the west. This is the most stubborn pattern I've ever seen. It has lasted more than a month now. Looks like it's been maybe a month and a half so far of just consistently looking like this. And I expect it to continue on through into March and potentially beyond. So this looks to continue for quite some time. Definitely the most stubborn pattern I've ever seen. As we look at this, we see we get brief cooldowns like here on the 18th in the east, but then we warm right back up, cold out west again. And this just reinforces itself February 24th here. This model eventually gets to the point here where you can see it's cold from coast to coast, but this is an ensemble model, so we have different members at play here. And I think what's happening is there's obviously some models that show the cold going out east, but a majority show it going out west, and that's why we're seeing the greens and the darker blues there. So I think what's happening is that there's a couple of outliers here showing the cold here, but that means this is the less likely outcome. The more likely outcome is that we're going to see the cold continue out west, and this warmth will probably be a lot more prevalent than what this model is showing here, because this is just a mean average. So a couple of bad members are showing this, and I think they're probably wrong based on how this winter has gone, and likely we will continue to see the troughing out west. Anyway, be sure to subscribe if you do enjoy the videos. We do upload every single day. Also, hit the bell icon for daily notifications so you never miss one. Like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.